That is all it took. Thomas Massie pressed play on a small black recorder. Attorney General Pam Bondi's own voice filled the chamber. $847,000, wire transfer, offshore account, and then the silence started. 67 seconds of silence, where she could not explain a single word she had just heard herself say. The room had no idea what was coming. What the cameras did not capture was this. Massie reached into a manila envelope before he even sat down. He pulled out a single bank wire receipt and set it face up on the table. Clean angle for the document cameras. That was not an accident. But that was just the beginning. What Massie pulled out next made every lawyer in that room reach for their phones. House Judiciary Committee, Room 2141. The hearing was listed as a routine oversight session on DOJ budget allocations. Routine. That word will sound different by the time this video is over. Bondi arrived with 3 attorneys and 2 senior aides. Chin up, shoulders back. The practiced posture of someone who has done this 30 times and never lost. She had no reason to believe today would be different. Massie had been in his seat for 11 minutes before the session opened. He had a black recorder on the table to his left. He had a tan manila envelope to his right. He had not touched either one yet. The first 40 minutes were exactly what Bondi expected. Budget questions, prosecutorial discretion, standard back and forth. She gave her standard non-answers. She checked her phone once. She looked at one point almost bored. This part of the hearing was never replayed on cable news. Then Massie took the microphone, and the room changed. Madam Attorney General, his voice was quiet, not aggressive, the kind of quiet that makes people pay closer attention than shouting ever could. I want you to listen to something before I ask my first question. He pressed play on the recorder. The voice that came out was Bondi's own, clear and unhesitating. The $847,000 transfer has been processed. The account is confirmed. This does not go in writing anywhere else. 12 words that should never exist on an audio recording. Bondi did not move. Her lead attorney leaned forward so fast the microphone caught the scrape of his chair. Gray-haired, early 60s, moving on instinct. Massie did not look at the attorney. He looked only at Bondi. Madam Attorney General, do you recognize that voice? Who authorized that recording? Who had access to that meeting? Those questions were already spreading through the room before Bondi said a single word. If you want to know whose name is on that account, subscribe to Patel Report Files now. Turn on notifications. What comes next is the part no cable network aired. Bondi's jaw moved. She swallowed. Her right hand, which had been resting flat on the table, closed into a loose fist. Her lead attorney whispered something. She shook her head slightly. No, she was going to answer this herself. Congressman, her voice was measured, controlled. I am not in a position to authenticate an unverified recording in an open congressional hearing. Massie nodded slowly. That is a fair answer. Let me give you something you can authenticate. He reached into the manila envelope. Now pay close attention to what happens next. This is the moment everything changed. He pulled out a single sheet of paper and held it toward the document camera. Bank wire transfer receipt. Department of Justice Financial Management Division. Date of transfer, February 8th. Originating account. DOJ General Operating Fund. Receiving account ending in 7473. Entity name, Executive Branch Consulting Services, LLC. Amount transferred, $847,000. And at the bottom, in the authorization field, a printed name followed by a handwritten signature. Bondi's signature, not a deputy, not an aide. Her name, her handwriting, on a transfer authorization form. $847,000, public funds leaving the Department of Justice, moving to a shell company with no employees, no physical address, no documented legal services. He set the document down flat. A congressional subpoena is a formal legal demand requiring document production. Madam Attorney General, what legal services did Executive Branch Consulting Services provide? What did they do to justify $847,000 in public funds? Bondi did not answer. Not immediately. The second document was worse. Drop a comment right now. Who do you think gave the executive branch order to kill the suspicious activity report on this transfer? Because that name is not in any document Massie showed today. Not yet. Massie reached back into the envelope without looking away from her. He did not rush. He had done this exact sequence before. He knew the power of the pause. Document 2. He held it up. February 11th. 3 days after the wire transfer, an internal DOJ memo from the Office of Legal Counsel to all division heads. Subject line, Executive Branch Protection Protocols. He read from the page, effective immediately, all records related to settlement agreement. EP0225 are designated attorney-client privileged, exempt from FOIA requests. He set it down. Attorney-client privilege protects communications between a lawyer and their client. Who is the client here, Madam Attorney General? Is it the Department of Justice? Or is it someone else? A murmur moved through the gallery. The stenographer looked up. Committee members who had been scrolling phones were no longer scrolling. But it gets worse, because 6 days after that memo, a Treasury Department analyst flagged the transfer. He pulled out document 3, the analyst's email to her supervisor. She wrote, "The recipient entity has no employees, no physical address, no verifiable business history. This appears to meet the threshold for a suspicious activity report. FBI investigators call it a sour filing. It is a mandatory legal notification. The law requires it when a transaction shows signs of criminal activity." Her supervisor's response, "Do not file. Matter is classified. Executive branch decision." He looked up. Executive branch decision. Someone at the top of this government decided that $847,000 moving to a shell company did not need to be reported. That is not legal discretion. That is obstruction of justice. The federal crime of deliberately interfering with a government investigation. In exactly 47 seconds, you are going to hear what Bondi said when Massie asked her directly who made that call. Watch what her hands do. Bondi's attorney tried to interrupt. "Mr. Chairman, I must ask that this line of questioning be paused to allow for document authentication." The committee chairman raised one hand. "Counselor, your client is the Attorney General of the United States. She can speak for herself." Massie had not moved. He was still looking at Bondi. Not angry, not triumphant, patient. The look of someone who already knows the answer and is simply waiting for the other person to run out of exits. "Madam Attorney General, who made the executive branch decision to override the suspicious activity report on this transfer?" Bondi's hand opened, then closed again. Knuckles briefly white before she relaxed them deliberately. That ear muscle below her left jaw twitched once. Involuntary stress response. The silence in that room lasted 67 seconds. Massie counted aloud. Not taunting, factual. 1, 2, 3. He got to 67 before she spoke. Now I need to stop for a second and say this. If what happened to $847,000 of your tax money matters to you, if you believe the Attorney General of the United States should be able to explain where public funds went and why a mandatory criminal report was overridden, hype this video right now. The hype button is right next to like. You can hype 3 times a day for free. We have 7 days to get this into the top 100 most hyped videos on YouTube. Every single hype counts. Do it now. Then keep watching, because what Bondi finally said when she broke that 67-second silence is exactly what Massie was waiting for. The next question did not come from a Democrat. It came from a Republican on the same committee, a congressman from Ohio, who leaned into his microphone and said quietly, "Madam Attorney General, I am a Republican. I supported your confirmation. And right now, I need you to look at this committee and tell us that receipt is not what it looks like." Bondi looked at him. She said nothing. He sat back, said nothing further. The silence between 2 members of the same party said more than either of them could have put into words. If you believe this kind of accountability should reach more Americans, hit that thumbs up for Patel Report files right now. Then keep watching. Massie picked up a 4th document. This is a DOJ internal privilege log, a formal registry listing every document the department has refused to produce under claims of executive privilege. This log was obtained through a federal court order filed 11 days ago. He opened it. Madam Attorney General, page 4. Entries 41 through 89. Every single entry marked Code D. He held it up. Code D. Executive branch protection. 48 documents. all related to what this log calls matter EP0225. He set it down, the same matter number as your classified settlement, the same matter number as your wire transfer authorization, 48 documents about a single payment, 48 reasons someone does not want this in front of a jury. He turned one more page in the log. There is a notation at the bottom of this entry. He read it aloud. Payment in full for settlement of claims related to J matter. He paused. J matter. Those two letters are used throughout the privilege log. 16 times. He held up the page. J matter. Jeffrey Epstein. The room went completely still. You could hear the ventilation system above the fluorescent lights. Not a single person moved. Not a journalist. Not a committee member. Not Bondi. Bondi's lead attorney stood. Mr. Chairman, my client is invoking executive privilege on all further questions related to matter EP0225. Massie turned slowly. Counselor, executive privilege protects communications between the president and his advisors. It does not protect wire transfers from the public treasury to shell companies. It does not cover the override of federal criminal reporting requirements. And it does not, under any interpretation of the law, shield the Attorney General from congressional oversight. But he turned back to Bondi. If you are still watching, what comes next is why this video exists. The truth is about to come out. Madam Attorney General, I am going to ask you a direct question. I am going to ask it once. Did someone in the executive branch instruct you to authorize the transfer of $847,000 from the Department of Justice to a shell company in exchange for the termination of active investigations into Jeffrey Epstein's associates? The room was completely still. You could hear the ventilation system above the lights. Bondi looked at her attorney. He looked back at her. She looked at her hands. Then she looked up at Massie. Her voice, when it came, was barely above a speaking volume. Congressman, on the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer that question. Then keep watching, because what Massie did next was not finished. Then he reached into the envelope one final time. He pulled out a single printed photograph, bank routing numbers, wire transfer confirmation codes, a timestamp, February 8th, 11:47 p.m. Eastern. He set it flat on the table facing the cameras. I am entering all of this into the congressional record today. Every document, every routing number, every signature. The American people will see this with their own eyes. He paused. And those 48 protected files, those will come out. The FD 302 forms, the official FBI witness interview reports from the original Epstein investigation were never mentioned today. The privilege log shows they are under a separate classification, separate protections, separate Code D entries. Someone built this cover in layers. That is not how innocent people handle documents. What happens next is already in motion. Massie did not leave the chamber when the session closed. He stayed at the table, stacking his documents methodically back into the manila envelope. The audio recorder went in last. The room emptied around him. Bondi's attorneys were speaking rapidly near the exit. She was already gone. 48 protected documents, $847,000, one signature on a wire transfer receipt, 67 seconds of silence from the top law enforcement officer in this country. No anchor covered what happened in the final 11 minutes of that hearing. This part never aired, but it is in the record, and records do not go away. The question is not whether those 48 files exist. They are confirmed in the congressional record. The question is whether Code D protection holds in federal court. If it does not, the names attached to matter EP0225 become public. Every single one. We have a WhatsApp channel. If you want to be the first to know when the next document in this case breaks, come find Patel Report Files there. Go to our YouTube profile and tap the WhatsApp button. Takes 5 seconds. Share this video through Patel Report Files right now. Someone in your feed needs to see what that bank receipt actually says. The name on the authorization line is not a deputy. It is not a consultant. You saw it. Share it. Hit the bell. Stay close.